and LinkedIn, and then hopefully Instagram will play nicely today. Yesterday, it wouldn't give me the go live signal on Instagram. Oh,
Meta. It's
oh,
Zuck's fault.
don't say that. We just went live on Instagram.
Zuck, we love you. Big fans, especially of your new hair, like the new Zuck. Big fans.
Great way to start today's episode of the Creative Impostor Live, our special series on creativity and media as resistance. I'm Andrea Klender. I'm your host if we've never met before. And of course, I have with me a fabulous guest, the one and only Jen Briney from Congressional Dish, who I have just confirmed is a real live podcast celebrity.
Oh, God. Well, thank you. Very happy to be with you. I'm also your friend. I'm lots of things.
Jen is many things, not least of which is the creator, producer, and host of Congressional Dish, and also co-host of another podcast that I like kind of too, called We're Not Wrong. And both of these shows have to do with politics, Congress. How do you describe the difference between these two shows, Jen?
So Congressional Dish is my investigation of government. So I'm looking at Congress. I'm looking at what Congress does as opposed to what they say. It is not politics. It is governing. So we're looking at bills and laws and hearings and like the actions of Congress. We're Not Wrong is punditry. We're Not Wrong is fun. And it's a meeting of three people who are all independent podcasters, but we have different specialties. So I'm the congressional expert. I do government. Justin Robert Young is the host of Politics, Politics, Politics. You can guess what his topic is. And then Andrew Heaton is a beautiful soul. He is a historian. He used to work in corporate media. He used to work for Fox Business. He's a comedian. So it's just, we have very different backgrounds and we talk about what's going on in the world, but we like to model friendly conversations because we're kind to each other. We don't fight when we debate, even when we vehemently disagree. So it's actually one of the joys of my career. It's a wonderful little show, but Congressional Dish is my main baby.
And let's talk about Congressional Dish for a little bit. So I like to tell people that if they are going to listen to one podcast about what our government is doing, this is it. And I say that for a number of reasons. First of all, I don't like listening to politics shows in general. They make me real angry.
Me too.
And not to say that Congressional Dish does not make me real angry, because sometimes it does.
Yeah.
But I really love your take on, like you said, it's not punditry. It's not advocating for this person, that person necessarily, but it's really looking, and it's also not caught up in the theatrics of the executive branch for the most part.
Yeah.
Like some of my favorite episodes have been episodes where I learn how things actually function in our government that I did not know. Like the two that come to mind is an episode that you did about the post office.
Okay.
Which is like, oh, that sounds dry. But I really loved the post office episode. It was a few years ago when all the shenanigans were going down with the Postmaster General and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And also the Federal Reserve episode. I love the Federal Reserve episode because, did you call it WTF is the Federal Reserve?
Sure did. So I didn't know what it was.
Same. Also,
Yeah.
I did not also know what it was. And it is important to know these things,
Yeah.
but we never learn them in the United States.
Yeah.
So, okay, I know the history of where Congressional Dish came from, but can you give us a brief, like, where and why did Congressional Dish begin, and where is it now?
So long story short, I was pretty unpleasant at parties during the George W. Bush administration. And because I was pretty traumatized that we started the Iraq War. I had my best friend sent there twice, and it was very traumatic for me. And so that's kind of what got me politically engaged. But over the years, I realized that George W. Bush couldn't have done anything that he did without Congress. And so I started paying attention to Congress. And so I was watching, like, the real origin story is I was watching C-SPAN one day. I was watching a debate about an energy and water policy bill because my husband's a solar engineer. And so I was watching that, and I watched a congressman. His name is Tom Cole of Oklahoma. He is now one of the leaders in the House of Representatives. But this guy gets up there and inserts an amendment into this energy and water bill that protects secret campaign contributions and brags about it. I was like, there's no way I heard that correctly. So I went into the congressional record, found the amendment, and found the text of his speech. It was exactly what I thought it was. Turns out he had inserted it into a bunch of different stuff. And so the light bulb moment for me was actually not that, but it was when I went to the TV and the internet that day to be like, okay, who else saw this? What are they thinking about it? This is going to be a big scandal. And there was nothing. No one noticed that it happened. And so that's when I started questioning, like, how often do they do shady things and no one is aware of it? Turns out all the time.
And shady things in public. It like you said,
Yeah.
he was bragging about it and it was part of the record. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I can do this, read the bills and the laws. I can do this from anywhere in the world. I'm not in DC. And so it's very disappointing me to see that reporters and people in the media, they like to focus on the politics. And I get it. It is easier and way more fun to like interview this person about their opinion and then interview that person. But we need to know what they're doing to us. That's what affects our lives. And so after about a year of me looking into the congressional record, I was going insane. And I was like, I just need to tell someone. And then the technology caught up to, my level of, tech expertise to the point that I was able to make a podcast. And in the beginning, it was really just, I need to tell someone. So I'm going to put this out on the internet and see if anyone cares, if anyone listens. And here I am 12 years later. It's my full-time job. It's my career. There's plenty of people that listen. And, nothing has gotten better in Congress, but at least someone's watching. So, I mean, Andrea, it's not a happy time in Congress, but I find that the show helps me and my audience to be prepared for a lot of it. So, like an example, I watched a hearing about surprise medical bills. And so it really helped me and my audience to understand our medical system to the point that I have been told by multiple people that my episode saved them thousands of dollars because they understood what to do when it happened to them. We've had consumer safety hearings where it's like there was a bed that was killing babies. It was on the shelf for 10 years. And it was really disturbing the limited amount of ability that our government had to get this thing off the shelves. And so just having the awareness of like, oh no, we have to do our own research about these products. And like, by the way, don't buy this bed. So it's just, there's things that Congress is made aware of that we should be made aware of. And so I can at least do my part in telling people the most interesting stuff that I find.
do you have a sense of why why mainstream media doesn't cover these things? Like, why is it up to independent producers like you to inform us of things like this?
So I'm an outsider in that world, but I did get to go to both of the conventions. And so I got to meet some mainstream people and kind of watch how the whole thing works. And I think there's a clickiness to it that most of us aren't aware of. And I think the focus on politics is just the way it's done. I think it really is that simple. I don't think it's anything nefarious. Um, I think you'll find a lot of people are feeding off of other stories and they just kind of feed off of each other. There's very little independent research that's going on. So that's why you'll turn on the news and just see every single station kind of doing a different take on a different story. Like somehow it's become acceptable to do debate instead of reporting. And so I think it's a culture thing more than anything else. And then I do think there is some laziness to it because what I do is boring sometimes. And then finally, I think it comes down to sponsors. I think sponsors are a big deal. So, next time you turn on cable news, watch the commercials. One exercise I did a while ago is I watched cable news for 1 hour and wrote down all the sponsors, and like half of them were pharmaceutical companies. And then you'll see like Raytheon and Boeing are advertising. And if you stop and think about that for a second, why are they advertising? Am I in the market for a jumbo jet? Like, no, I'm not buying a weapon systems from Raytheon. Like, I'm not the customer, but they are paying the media. And so if you're someone who's getting paid by these companies. Are you really incentivized to go to the hearing where they're exposing some drug that's dangerous but is also advertising on your program? Are you going to go and like go full throated against the waste, fraud, and abuse that's committed by these military contractors when they're the ones responsible for your paycheck? So I think there's just there's a culture in DC media that really disincentivizes in many different ways going for certain stories. And because I'm not a part of it, I don't really have to think about any of those considerations. I'm not their friends. I'm not paid by the same companies. I'm not paid by any companies. So I can do things differently.
That's another thing that I appreciate about your show is the amount of documentation that you have around what you say. Because from when I'm producing podcasts on behalf of clients, most of our clients have a want, desire, need, mission to educate around whatever it is that their niche is. And sometimes I have to remind them that it's media and it's podcasting and it should also be entertaining. Even though it
Mhm.
is educational, they're like, if it's not entertaining the person listening to it, they're going to turn it off and switch to something else that's more entertaining. And even if they want to learn, whatever it is that you're teaching about. And one thing that I enjoy is I do love your snarky, like when Snarky Jen comes out, those are typically my favorite episodes. I
Okay,
know
good
we
to
talked
know.
a little bit about that behind the scenes of like how much of you is in the episodes that you're putting out versus not.
Yeah.
Um, but it matches my personality, it matches my sense of humor. So I appreciate that. And yet it's backed up by research and by sources because,
Mhm.
if I say, well, my friend Jen said blah, 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 and people are like, oh, yeah, well, like, how does she know that? Or like, how do you know that she's telling the truth? And I'm like, well, here's a list of sources. And I
It's
very
powerful.
rarely actually click through the resources again because I don't love being in politics land or in government land or in Congress land. But just knowing that just knowing that they are there and that I can reference them or I
Yeah.
can share them is like really affirming to me. So I'm curious for you. You said a lot of what you do is boring. What's an average day in the life of a Congressional Dish producer and host?
Oh man, it depends on the episode, really. My favorite episodes are the hearing episodes. So a lot of times, like if I'm out grocery shopping or walking the dog or doing pretty much anything, I have like 40 hearings on my phone right now, and I'll just be kind of listening to them in the background. And then sometimes I'll hear one and be like, "Oh, this is fire." So I'll bring that home. I'll watch it in my editing software and pulling out clips for that and either make it its own episode. But a lot of the episodes will have testimony from 3, 4, 5 hearings because I'm just trying to show you the story over time or whatever. I love doing those episodes. I have less fun reading bills and laws, but those are also some of the most important because those are the ones that are going to affect our lives. So it's big tax cuts or the Inflation Reduction Act, like those episodes are really important because those are making changes, and especially with our finances, you can make some really important decisions based on how the federal laws are changing. So those are the ones that are the most painful to do because reading legislation it's annoying. A lot of times it is not in plain language. You're going back and forth between current law and what they're trying to do. And it's almost like a puzzle to switch the words around to figure out what they're doing. And so, sometimes I'll be staring at one page of legislation for 2 hours and it's awful. So it's like sometimes I'll see a bill and it's 50 pages. And I'm like, okay, like that'll be like pretty quick. And it takes me forever. And then I can see another bill that's 300 pages, but it's written in plain language. And that one I can fly through. So an AI is really no help in this regard because, first of all, it's wrong all the time. But also, it doesn't know how to do the thing where it goes back and forth between current law and what's changing. So there's no shortcuts to this. You just have to sit there and grind. And luckily, I have an assistant who's very smart. She has a master's in library science. And so she's been able to kind of help me dig through some of the bigger bills. Having her has been key, but she's also the one who does our show notes. And so we've done a really good job, I think, of every single thing that we say we're backing up. And the most common use of the show notes is for people to win arguments, which I'm very proud of because people will remember the episode, go in there and be like, see, it's in this bill. And so, but yeah, I think that credibility is important in this era where people expect to just be trusted, where I am just a person. So it's don't trust me, but trust the information that I am presenting to you, most of its primary sources. And yeah, it's a lot of work, but that's why people pay me. So
Well, and that's a good point too, because you said that you are not getting money from companies or corporations or sponsors, and you are
mhm.
doing all this work. This is your full-time job. How do you get compensated for this work?
So it's entirely listener supported. And so people pay me in whatever way works best for them. And so I do have a Patreon where I'm now giving people bonus content. So I have these weekly, well, when Congress is in session, weekly episodes called Last Week in Congress, which are much more informal. These are not fact checked, but I'm going through the daily digest, which is part of the congressional record, and just saying, this is what they did last week. And those are actually kind of fun because in the middle of it, a Zamboni will go by my window and I have to explain like what just happened. You know, it's very fun. I love those. So I have a significant portion of people paying on Patreon, but some people don't want the bonus. And so they'll send me paper checks or Venmos or PayPals. There's a guy that's been paying me for 10 years in Chipotle gift cards, just all kinds of stuff. But it gives me my editorial freedom. But I think what's also important is it helps me maintain the credibility, the trust, because as opposed to making media that is designed to attract advertisers, making advertisers my customers. For me, my customer is you. So I'm making a show that's valuable for you. It's not a show that is valuable so that I can sell your time. Because any podcast that is selling ads, they are selling your time to make a living. And I think it's a fundamental difference. And so yeah, it's been unbelievably successful. I'm so proud of our business model and our community.
And how has that? Okay, so wait, one thing that I need to say, because I said it to you already, but I did not say it to our audience, which is that I love the Last Week in Congress episodes.
Thank you.
When you described it as I'm I'm reading the congressional record and telling you what happened, that sounds so boring. You
It
need
does,
somebody to
right?
write a new description
I know.
for what they are, but it's fascinating because again, it's one of those things that I realized I have no flipping clue what they're doing other than what they post on social media, which is again more theatrics, right?
Mhm.
And not a clear representation of what is actually happening. And the number of days that you say, yeah, they did nothing interesting, or the Senate did nothing except, name National whatever the heck day,
Yeah.
a day after it happened.
It happens so often. It's blowing my mind to the point that the audience is like, "You don't have to tell us about all these days," but I'm like, the Senate has consistently been honoring and being like, "This is, I don't know, National Fingernail Awareness Day," but they'll do it for a month before. So it's like, how is that raising awareness for anything? It is making me bonkers, and it just keeps happening. Yeah, that's it, and it's like little stuff like that, or the national emergencies that the president, no matter who the president is, keeps continuing. And it'll be like, we're continuing the national emergency in Belarus from 2006. And you're like, what? Like, what emergency are we talking about? And it happens like every other week. So it's, yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff that you find in the congressional record that we're just not never aware of.
And also interesting to hear things that get voted on, that very often right now seem like a lot of the votes are just strictly along party lines.
Yeah.
And because the Republican Party has the majority everywhere, that things just kind of, it's like, meh, okay. But then occasionally it'll be like, oh, 6 Democrats voted along with them, or oh,
Hmm.
2 Republicans did not vote for this. And so it's just kind of interesting to see who those people are. Was
Yeah.
it your representative? Because, they're your representative and we don't always know. We just assume that they're voting our preferences because we elected them, but it's not always the case.
Yeah, like we've seen Tom Massey in particular. He's a Republican from Kentucky. He's in the House of Representatives. He votes against the party all the time. Like that man has principles. You got to hand it to him. So it's like I feel like we talk about these parties being in lockstep, but when you actually look at the voting records, like Not always. Like there's a few people that could be worked with, but with the other side on issues they agree on. And I like highlighting those people because there's times like, I don't know, right now when we're on the precipice of being at war with Iran, there are people in both the Democratic and Republican parties that are very much against this. And if it was politically okay for them to combine forces, that would be very good for our country. And I can actually name who those people are because I'm doing this work. So it's yeah, I'm happy that I'm doing these now. I feel like I'm better informed. So I'm glad to hear you like them as well.
Also, uh, how do it right now feels like a major shit show. And
Amen, sister.
I don't know if it actually is more of a shit show
It
or if
is.
it's just getting more media coverage or if I'm just paying attention more. Like are things actually crazier than they normally are?
Yes. No, this is horrible. It's I was horrified in 2012 when I started doing this with the behavior I was witnessing in Congress. Everything that I was horrified by has just gotten worse over the years, and specifically the behavior of, I have to say, the Republican Party. Like they're just off the wall crazy at this point. And so yes, things are worse. And I think that the second Trump administration is also worse than the first Trump administration. So I also am struggling right now. And I think we are not alone. We are not alone. These are weird, weird times. Because what I'm struggling with in particular is I'm watching all the craziness going on in the world and knowing that Trump's chaos can and should be put in check by the judicial branch and by the Congress. So I keep hearing people being like, we're in a constitutional crisis. No, we're not. We could impeach and remove the man tomorrow if there was the political will. Our system is holding. What is not working is the Republican Party. They are refusing to hold their own president accountable. And so it's like, here I am watching what's going on in Congress. They're not investigating the people that are being disappeared, who are, by the way, here legally. They're not investigating these wars that we're involved in the Middle East, or in Russia and Ukraine for that matter. So it's like there are things going on here, and when I'm looking at the list of hearings, it's all just nonsense. So I'm struggling with that a lot.
And how do you choose with all of the chaos? And it seems like distractionary tactics where it's like, oh, this big thing that's being covered by the media that's like theatrical and dramatic and whatever, while there's this other thing silently going on over here that's actually more important that we're not paying attention to. And right now, there are no examples of that coming to my mind, but it feels like it has happened um, many times. Uh, how do you choose what to cover if you're only doing, because how many Congressional Dish main episodes are you doing, deep dive episodes?
Right now, I can do about 2 a month. I've been able to do that pretty consistently.
So
I wish I could do more, but I can't.
how do you choose where to focus or what to cover? And related to that, how do we choose as American citizens who give a shit and, want to be conscientious and want to be civically engaged, but are feeling overloaded with this onslaught of stuff? How do we choose where to focus?
So, how to pick what to focus, honestly, is a pretty selfish endeavor because I have to spend 2 weeks of my life on this. So, I better be fascinated by it. So, a lot of times it's picked based on what am I, in these times, what am I afraid of? So for instance, and what is Congress willing to work on? So they did have a hearing on the idea of us taking the Panama Canal. And that was a fascinating one for me because there was a whole bunch of history that I was completely unaware of. And I was also pretty unaware of the fact that like we're kind of allowed to take the Panama Canal if we want to. And I was like, oh, okay, that's news to me. So it's great to be able to get this witness or expert testimony and to hear from people who really know what they're talking about, who are not doing sound bites in 2-minute interviews on CNN. Like these people sit down there for 3 hours and have a conversation. And so I find that super useful. Same thing with Greenland. I also usually, if I'm reading a piece of legislation, it's when it's already law. But I made an exception with the big, beautiful bill after it passed the House because there was some horrific things in there. And we have time to pressure our members of Congress to get it out, or we also have the ability to just be aware that it's in there and plan our lives accordingly. So, one of the things I'm most horrified by that really no one is talking about in that bill is that it essentially would legalize the indefinite detention of children along with their parents on their way to being deported, whether they came here legally or illegally. Like there's some really unconstitutional stuff going on here. And that's just buried in 1,028 pages of that bill. So those are the types of things where I'm like, I can sound the alarm on this. Sometimes, like right now, it's not really making that much of a difference. Sometimes another journalist who's bigger than me picks it up and runs with it. So it's like I pick things based on whatever I'm really curious about at the time. So if I feel like this information can help me either feel prepared or feel better, some of these episodes I get done with them and I feel better, you know. Sometimes I don't. But whatever I feel like I need to know is kind of the rabbit hole I like to go down.
With the big beautiful bill, I can't even. How do you even
I
say
know.
that without throwing up in your mouth?
I don't know what else to
Like,
call it. Like they named it the Big Beautiful Bill Act. It's so dumb.
oh.
But that's the name of it.
You said that we have time. How much time, and what is the best action that we can take?
Call Congress. Call them, call them, call them, call them, call them over and over and over again. Because right now it is in the Senate, but the Senate is changing it. So we're getting little pieces of it. They say they want it to be law by the 4th of July. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell that that's going to happen. But the reason we still have time is the House now has a version and the Senate will soon have a version. Those two need to be the same version and have to pass both the House and the Senate before anything can become law. And so we're not there yet. Like they're still changing this thing and it's still horrifying. What's coming out of the Senate, in some ways it's worse than the House version. Like for instance, the House version would kick 11 people off of Medicaid, which is health insurance for poor people. The Senate version would kick 16 million off. So it's like it's a bad bill. And but Congress, you have to remember they get their jobs from us. And this is still true. Like our elections are not rigged. And so when they do get a lot of people in their district calling them being like, I'm watching you, I'm aware of what's happening, this is what I want, it does spook them. And so few people do it that you alone can make a difference by being that person who calls and calls frequently. And I have heard this from congressional staffers. I've heard this from lobbyists. Like I've heard this from the people who are in the middle of it in Washington, D.C. And it has been unanimous. Yes, your calls and emails, and especially your in-person visits, they matter.
And you said that this work was hard.
Yeah.
And reading this stuff and you talking about it is hard. What can you say about how you are taking care of yourself, sustaining yourself, protecting yourself, nourishing yourself during this time, when, yeah, I mean, sure, you'd rather be, because I know you and listen to your show, playing beach volleyball
Yeah.
or hanging out with your dog or traveling or, anything else literally than having these conversations. What are you doing?
So, I mean, my job's hard, but I am fascinated by this stuff. So I would rather be doing this than anything else because at least I feel like I am spending my productive hours doing something that helps in a way that I can help. And so, one of the things though that I've had to get over, which in the beginning, when I started this, I delusionally thought that me covering Congress would make Congress better because I'm shining a light on it, right? And all these people are going to call and we'll have a better Congress. Like we don't. And we keep electing these people, like 95, 96% of them keep getting their jobs back. It's awful. And so I have had to really work hard on acknowledging the limits of my own power, but also knowing that we're kind of all in this together. So if all of us are doing the one little thing that we can do to contribute, if we were all doing that, it pushes the whole thing in a better direction. So like for me, I think I'm doing more than the average person with making Congressional Dish my career. But there's lots of different ways that we can help our communities. Like some of us like to go out and peacefully protest, and like that does help. There's just we can get creative with it too. Like if you're, I gave you an example of a friend of mine who has a green card. And so I was like, you shouldn't protest. But when you have conversations with people back in Germany, like tell them what's really going on here. Tell them that your American friends are not a bunch of bigots that are trying to kick out every Mexican. Like tell them that that's not real, that the news, like the news, I'm in Los Angeles, has been telling us that Los Angeles is about to burn down. It's not true. And so we can do our part in spreading the truth, whether it's online or in our our day-to-day conversations. Obviously, we can vote, help other people vote. Like, think of something that you can do it, and then go on with the rest of your day. Because none of us individually can solve this. That's impossible. And so I've really internalized that. So it's like I get my work done, and then I do go play beach volleyball, and I do go to the gym, and I take days where it's like, if I can't handle this mentally, if it's just making me crazy, I take the day off and I go, like, I rode a 20-mile bike ride yesterday just because I couldn't do it yesterday. And that way I can come into this interview today and like feel like myself. I do give my time now in a way that I don't think I did in the past. And then there is one other change from the first Trump administration, which is an administration I didn't handle well. I feel like I was just kind of like treading water, getting through that madness. I'm doing much better mentally now because I did quit drinking alcohol. I wasn't a full-blown alcoholic. I was never someone who drank every day, but I have come to understand, thanks to Dr. Andrew Huberman. I'm such a cliche, but yes, I do listen to him. But in his alcohol episode, he was explaining that if you drink at all, when you aren't drinking, your anxiety levels are higher. And so now I'm 2.5 years off of it, and I'm just finding my emotional level is just so much more even than it's ever been in my entire adult life. And so where I'm taking care of my health now, and I'm not artificially giving myself these crazy dopamine hits from the booze, and then, being below baseline for weeks with anxiety issues because I decided to have a few drinks. Like, it doesn't take a lot to have that anxiety issue. Like, I think quitting the substances which I was using to cope with the stress of the first Trump administration, I'm just doing a lot better with it now. And I know that a lot of us we drink for fun, we drink to cope, we drink because it's the end of the day. And I've just got to tell you, like, getting that crap out of my system. And I loved drinking. It's so fun. But
I won't say
I'm
too much, but we've had some fun times together at podcast
oh
conferences.
God, yeah. Like, I'm that person who's gonna take you to karaoke at 4 a.m. and like, yeah, like I have so much fun. But I've also found that I can be very fun without that. I do go to bed earlier and I have a lot of more like daytime athletic fun, but I'm just adding some more sports and taking out the poison for fun. I'm doing much better now than I was in the past. And I feel like in times where the things I can't control feel so chaotic, taking control of the things that I could have been very, very, very helpful.
This is a big question. So,
I love big questions.
what is your vision for America? Like, if anything was possible and we could have the government and the democracy that you might dream of
Yeah.
in your heart, what would that look like that is not today?
So when I started the show, it was based off of one idea, which was written into the Constitution, and which I think is brilliant, which is that the House of Representatives can be fired in its entirety every 2 years. And that is such a beautiful way to make massive change in our government without a single shot having to be fired. Because it's the House of Representatives that controls the power of the purse. They have immense investigative powers. These are the powers that the Republicans are choosing not to use. But if we did have a mass movement where it was like, we're just firing everyone who's in there, it's like we can have a label. And what's fascinating too is you don't have to be in a political party. On a ballot, it's just you get 3 words to basically describe yourself. And a lot of people choose Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green, whatever. You don't have to. So if we I remember Joe Rogan was trying to get people to join the Freak Party, but that is the type of thing you could do if you pick a phrase and be like, I'm one of these. And then somehow we get this movement and we just replace them all. All these people who have found the way that Washington behaves to be acceptable, if we could just clean them out and start over, not with our system, but with the personnel in charge of our system, I would love to see that. Because right now, like I said, what I witnessed at the DNC and the RNC was a culture that does not match the one that we're in. It was fascinating because I would walk out of the DNC, we call it the bubble when you're in there because like it's heavily guarded, and I would walk out of the bubble at both of these conferences. And the minute I got outside of it, I felt like I was back in a world that I recognized. But being inside the bubble with the DC people and the politicians, it felt different. And I was like, uh-oh, the people that are determining how we live, it shouldn't feel like a different world like this. And it does. And so I would like to see a mass movement of people from this world kick out them and represent workers as opposed to giant multinational corporations, because that's really what shocked me the most when I became the host of Congressional Dish was the hold that pharmaceutical companies and fossil fuels and especially weapons manufacturers, their interests are what congressmen seem to care about more than us. Like we are labor costs to a corporation. So like for them, they benefit when our benefits are low. They benefit when our paychecks are low. And our congressmen right now are representing them, not us. And that's true really in both parties. They really lie to us when it comes to who's helping the worker. Right now, neither of the parties are. So that's what I would like to see. I would like to see a mass movement of people who want to see the paycheck earners be represented in our government, because that's what I think we're missing. And then in the process, we need to make bribery illegal. Because right now we have a political system based on legal bribery, and that's why our job application process, that's why the elections don't produce the type of people we want doing the job, because the application process and the job, they don't match. So that's kind of what I'm hoping. And in the minute I don't think that's possible, I'm done with Congressional Dish.
And is that why, like, because you keep saying that the Republicans are not doing the job that they are empowered and also in a way mandated to do, that they're just choosing not to.
Mhm.
Is it the bribery? Is it the profit motive? Is that why? Like why not just why not just fix it?
I think for most of the Republicans, like I said, there's some exceptions here. You've got Tom Massey in the House. You've got Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins in the Senate. Like there are some exceptions that'll be like right is right and wrong is wrong. So they exist. But for the most part, there is a tribalism when it comes to really Republican. I mean, it's both parties, but it's like, this is our team. We're going to support it no matter what it does. And so that's why you'll see, you know, Trump run on, I'm going to get us out of wars in the Middle East. And now it might be, we're going to bomb Iran on behalf of Israel within 6 months of him taking office. And the Republicans are going to line up and support that for the most part. Although there is an interesting MAGA war that seems to be brewing. But there's a lot of like, it's a team thing. I'm on team Republican, no matter what they do. I'm on team Democrat, and you better fall in line. Like that was actually at the DNC, that was very creepy to me, the way that people were falling in line behind Kamala, despite the fact that absolutely no one voted for her to be the nominee. And that was something that it was very clear. They did not want to have conversations about that at the DNC. So I think there's a lot of just, you fall in line. You do what leadership says. We are a team is what it is. I don't think they're making decisions on right or wrong. I think they're making their decisions on, this is what the party wants me to do.
So how do we get to that vision of having representatives apply for the job and earn the job, win the job, of being our congressional representatives? How do we get to that point where where the working class, you and I, are actually being represented?
I do that
How
all
do
the time. That's a tough word.
This is why podcasts normally get edited.
Yeah.
How do we get from where we are right now and this disaster that we're in, this hellscape that we're in, to this vision of having actual representation in Congress rather than just the corporate class being represented?
So we're going outside my expertise now because that's more politics than government. But what I can say is that I think the first step is awareness of who your representative is and what they do, as opposed to what they say. Because one of the things that I just find endlessly fascinating is how easy it is for these people to lie to us about what they do. And like the Republican Party is just the masters of this. Like going to the RNC and watching them pretend to be the representatives of working people. And then you watch their legislation and it is just the opposite. Like there are people on Medicaid that they work for a living and you're going to rip their health insurance away and give them no way. Like there's no requirement that their businesses now give it to them. Like there's no, they're not representing working people. They're just not like in their bills. And so it's interesting to watch the campaigns and then watch how different what they do is. And so that's one of the reasons that I want to do Congressional Dish is because I can at least give people the like, okay. And I do this right before every election where it's like, okay, here's 5 to 10 things that you can really judge someone on. This is an easy to understand bill. You can see where they are on the issue. Here's their voting record. If we could make that common practice, because you only have 3 people in Congress, you have 2 senators and you only have one up for election at a time, but you have one member of the House that's on the ballot every 2 years. And so that's 3 people that you're responsible for. If we made it just an autopilot thing that we do, that we check their voting records, I think you're going to see a lot fewer people get reelected because there are some just horrific votes that are taken, but they're so far under the radar. So that's what I'm trying to do in my small way. We're going to need a bigger media spotlight on Congress to make this happen. So I think awareness is the first step and then it can go from there. But as long as the conversation is politics and their word is taken as gospel, like that's a problem.
As we're moving to close here, what is coming to your mind that is something that is important to say as, people are looking at how do I find my role to make my whatever difference, whatever impact that I can make? How do I protect myself and take care of myself during this tumultuous time? What is coming to your mind that you haven't said yet in this conversation that feels important to say?
I think we have to, on whatever scale we can, think less about taking care of ourselves and taking care of some other people. Because like for me, I've decided that my mission with Congressional Dish is no longer to change Congress, but to just prepare the people who listen to my show as best I can for whatever is coming in whatever way I can. So whether that's reading a bill and letting you know how it'll affect your finances, or whether it's letting you know about, products or whatever Congress is being told, if it's something that I think you need to be aware of, that's how I can play a role. You can also do that on a smaller scale in your own community. Right now we have a lot of people. I'm in Los Angeles. We have a huge immigrant population. What's happening right now with these deportations and detainments, this is not just happening to people who are here illegally. We have people whose visas are being revoked. They have work visas, student visas, they have asylum situations that are just being revoked out of nowhere. You can donate money to the lawyers that are helping these people pro bono. You can show up at your congressman's office and be like, I'm aware of this and I hate this and it needs to stop. Like there's different ways that you can spend quite a little bit of time actually advocating for others. Because I think our individualism, while it is a strength of Americans, it is also kind of how we got here, because we are allowing the most selfish people in our society to run our society, the people that are in it for themselves, people who are hoarding wealth. And so I think it's up to the rest of us to really bring back the idea of we are one nation. We are a collective. We do care about each other, and we do need to have some kind of safety net so that no one just fails in America, because it's dangerous for all of us. We've all seen people on the streets in the cities that are treated like animals, and desperate people do desperate things. So it's dangerous for us to have people that are desperately poor. And I can tell you what the Republicans are doing now are not going to make the situation any better. We're going to have more people in those situations. So I think take care of yourself, yes, but also start thinking about your community. And if we all did that, if we all took care of even a few people beyond ourselves, we'd be in a much, much better place politically and just like physically in the United States.
Well said. I this is a horrible thing. I frequently have titles for things that just pop into my head at random moments. And
Okay.
as you said that, I was like, the title for this episode can be Putting the United Back in the United States.
Oh, it's so cheesy, but I like it. Big fan of cheese over here.
It was either that or the other one I was thinking of. You can't change Congress, or can you?
We have to.
Yeah.
We have to. And so like that's the thing, like politics and government, two different things. But we have to. It's necessary. And listen to my show to find out why.
Yes, please do listen to Congressional Dish. As I've been saying, I very rarely tell people like also become a patron and support this podcaster, but Jen is one of the top of who I would say to do that. I think that
Thank you.
what you're doing with Last Week in Congress is just so illuminating. I have only learned about my government from two places. One is Schoolhouse Rock as a child.
Me too.
And then I sort of didn't learn anything else until meeting you.
Oh my
So
gosh.
Schoolhouse Rock and Congressional Dish are my 2 points of reference for
I'm
government.
That's flattering and terrifying. Like that's just so wrong. Like I'm glad I can be there for you, but like I should not be playing that big of a role. But thank you. Thank you for listening and supporting and having me on. This is fun.
Absolutely. And thank you to our audience for joining in. I did see some viewers pop in and out here and there on the various platforms, so that was great. And I'm going to end this stream. Thank you, everybody, for watching either live or on the replay. Please share. Please listen to Congressional Dish. You can go listen to We're Not Wrong, too, if you want. It is entertaining. I learn a lot there,
Yeah.
too, in a different way. And thanks for tuning in.